Hello and welcome to the In My Defense podcast, the show where we pontificate on our favorite subjects until it's too annoying to listen to us anymore. Hi folks, it is I, your host, Christian, and I got a really good one here today. This might actually be the most inaccessible episode out so far, and that's saying something considering that the last episode was about one specific episode of a 15-year-old cartoon. I have a good friend of mine, Mazzei, and we are discussing the genre, the Japanese phenomenon known as Tokusatsu. It's a television movie film style that's been utilized in Japan for decades at this point. It's where Power Rangers comes from. It's basically the idea of special effects driven dramas and TV shows, usually for families or kids, but Godzilla, it applies to Godzilla, it applies to all kinds of shows. Basically, if it's effects heavy and it comes from Japan, it's Tokusatsu. And it's something that I've been getting slowly into, and I brought on my friend Mark because he is an avid fan. He's been following series for years and years and years, and this is just a super fun conversation. But it is not something that is well known in America, so a lot of folks who might be listening to this might be like, what the hell are they talking about? I apologize for that. Hopefully our passion and our love for this genre really gets across, and hopefully by the end of it you will want to check it out. I highly suggest Kamen Rider. I highly suggest any Super Sentai series. It's a really good show, and there's literally hundreds and hundreds of episodes for you to choose from, and you can pretty much watch the series in any kind of order. Well, sort of. We'll get into that on this show. Don't want to take up too much of your time. We'll include show notes and thank yous at the end of the show. Just enjoy the music and let's get into it. I am here with one of my good friends, Mark Mazzei, and we are here to talk about the Japanese phenomenon known as Tokusatsu. Say hi to everybody, Mark.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning.
All right, and Tokusatsu, for those who may not be aware, is, I guess you'd call it a genre of Japanese film and TV. Basically, Tokusatsu in Japanese means special effects, if I'm correct.
That is absolutely correct. It is essentially like live action superhero stuff. The MCU would be its American equivalent at this point.
Yeah, it kind of covers like general, I think technically the first Tokusatsu movie was the original Godzilla.
Yes, so Godzilla, Ultraman are would be considered like the most mainstream like Japanese Tokusatsus. Yeah, you have these effects heavy basically anything that uses special effects could be included in just Tokusatsu to some degree, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I actually approached you about talking about this, Mark, because you're one of the most avid fans of Tokusatsu TV and films that I know personally, and I thought this would actually be a really cool conversation. And so when it comes to Toku, why are you such a big fan? What are your favorite aspects about it? I guess this goes into two responses. One would be before this year, 2020, and after. So I think like a majority of Americans, I guess, I got into Tokusatsu thanks to Power Rangers, which is the most popular form of Tokusatsu in America and overall. I would say like Power Rangers is still, I believe, going on to this day. Like they just announced a new season earlier this month. And as a kid, I just thought nothing of it. I was like, oh, Power Rangers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like all those things that I liked. But as I grew older and I saw the reruns on, what was that? I think it was like ABC Family. And I was just watching the old Power Rangers episodes again. Like I'm talking about the original ones. And I was like, wait a minute. That footage doesn't match that footage.
Yeah, strangely, the quality here seems to be there's still a dive in the quality as if the footage is a few years older than the
right.
one that we
yes,
saw
exactly. So I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't look right. And I think Power Rangers is one of the more obvious ones because the morphers, as they're called in America, like it says Power Rangers on the American versions and the American suits, but in the Japanese footage, the Morpher stickers says Kyoryu Sentai Zero Ranger, which is the Japanese source footage. I'm like, oh, okay, so what's Zero Ranger? And then that's when I began going down into the rabbit hole, because then finding about Zero Ranger showed, I think this was around probably 2006. So Bokenger, which was the 30th Sentai one, was approaching. So it's like just seeing all these Sentais, not just the ones that America adapted into Power Rangers, but also the ones that came before it since 1975. Then
and the ones they skip every once in a while.
Yeah, and then well, true. Although, however, in 2006 they weren't. I don't think they ever skipped one. They may have used footage, but I don't think they ever skipped a Sentai. As they do now.
They used footage from Die
Ranger and Kaku Ranger were used as for the original seasons, and
they still incorporated footage from those into like the Mighty Morphin stuff. So.
Right. So it wasn't until what was it? I think it was Go Bust. No, because here the thing is now they don't match. The seasons don't match at all. Because it went from they apparently think that Americans don't like trains apparently. Yeah, it went from Dino Charge, which is the Kyoryuger adaptation in 2013, to Ninja Steel, which is the Ninja adaptation, which came out in 2015. So they skipped trains, they skipped Go Busters for a while, which is currently Beast Morphers. Q Ranger, which was 2017, isn't out. Lupin Ranger vs. Pat Ranger, which is 2018, didn't come out. And they went straight to Dino Fury, which is Ryu Soldier, which was last year. So it's if you're keeping track, it gets a lot. It just gets lost all over the place. So yeah, in regards to that, I saw, because this was around when because Wikipedia wasn't around in 1993, and it wasn't around earlier. So to be aware of Sentai was a lot more difficult than it is now, with everything being a lot easier accessible, so to speak. So then I found out about the early Sentais, and then it was just then it was the music. It was the music that I really got into. Like I may not be interested in a Toku show, but I'll really like the music. Because that sticks with me more than some shows do, which I guess might be a subject for later. And then I think it was a few years after 2006 where I saw a picture of the Imagines, which are these colorful, spiritual, genie-like monsters, and belonging to a very popular show in Japan called Kamen Rider Den-O in 2007. I'm like, okay, so what's Kamen Rider? And then of course that just went into a bigger rabbit hole, being like, wow, this is all the way back in 71. Wow, he's riding a motorcycle. This theme sounds so basic, but it's so cool. And then it's become a point where, like, I want to say it was 2009 where I would, if I could, and Christian, this because we both met at Cutler Bay Community Theater, and we are both actors and improvisers in our own rights. I would make it a point to, from 2009, when Kamen Rider Decade and Shinkenger, which was the Sentai at the time, was airing, to see the shows live every Saturday. And as you know, that's not entirely possible. Or that wasn't in some of the plays that we've been in together. So that's pretty much how I caught. That's the long and short of it is Power Rangers came from Sentai. Sentai was way back then, finding out that they air alongside Kamen Rider, then going back. And yeah, there's also other shows in the Toku genre that I have grown to like since then. Particularly,
I've heard of other ones. There's Metal Heroes.
Yes.
Was Metal Heroes wasn't the same as the one that Beetleborgs was based off of,
Yes,
right?
it was. So
they were Metal Heroes.
So Metal Heroes was, so the funny thing about Metal Heroes, or excuse me, rather the sad thing about it, is that it's sad because it's part of the reason why it as a genre died, because Metal Heroes wasn't considered Metal Heroes until the franchise died, because it was from 82 to 98, 96 if you don't count the last two, Kabutok and Robotok, because those were more like robot comedy shows from the Fushigi line, the Fushigi series line, which we could probably get into, because that's going. So Metal Heroes is a deep cut. Toei Fushigi is an even deeper cut, an even deeper cut. But yeah, you're thinking Beetleborgs, which was B Fighter, which came out in 95.
Yeah, it's a very like there's so like again this is covering like an entire genre, so like there's literally probably like 100 different shows. Like you can even go to I think it's the there's a new Toei Tokusatsu like YouTube channel where they're just putting out like a dozen different like old shows like Captain there's like Captain Ultra and a bunch of other things that if anybody ever has any interest in watching like old TV and maybe like filming things
it's the Toei Tokusatsu channel has been kind of a personal lifesaver during the beginning of quarantine, because back when we were younger and more naive, regardless of whether or not this gets in, I kind of still want to say it. Back when we were younger and more naive and thinking, oh, hey, we're going to be out of this by like May, June, probably July tops. Seeing that Toei announced like all these classic shows coming back and the first 2 episodes would be subtitled, it's like, this is so cool. So I really got into a lot of them, like Gavan, which is the first one, got entirely subtitled. I mean, not subtitled, but entirely released. Sharivan is which came after, is out now. Also, Winspector recently finished, and Soulbrain is continuing after it. And unfortunately, there's no Sentai because all of it's licensed to Hasbro now. So they may have it available. I think South Korea is the only place in the world where you can get all of the media that's available, because I mean, you were talking about Beetleborgs just now. B Fighter, I believe, is one of the shows where it's licensed here by Saban, or I think it's still Hasbro. I don't know if the license is transferred, but the point is because there was an American adaptation made of it, they won't release the first 2 episodes. But yeah, no, the Toei Tokusatsu app is great. Yeah. I will say Kamen Rider Shin's on there, and that I'm amazed that they kept that. Like the entire movie Shin is there subtitled. I think it's the only like actual film in the library that they have now. But I mean, it's such a great like resource for like classic shows. I think the Shout Factory app is what I'm using to watch Kuga on now, and I think Kamen Rider Ichigo is on there too. Yes, the very first
the
one.
Original series.
98 episodes if you can get through all that. Admittedly, I have not seen. I know this is like huge blasphemy. I've not seen all of Rider as it is. I've seen probably the first 30 episodes of the original and like the last 5 of the original. So there's a big chunk that I've still yet to catch up on.
I will say like these are shows made in the 1960s. The effects are not great. The writing isn't super. I mean, the writing was never like super top notch. There are a lot of cool moments. I mean, like the thing that got me into Kamen Rider specifically was like I had heard of it through like there's a writer that I follow, and he would talk about Kamen Rider every once in a while. This is around the time that Kamen Rider Forza was out.
Oh man, Forza's 8 years. That was 2012. So, yeah. Wow.
And basically like it's about these guys.
No, Forza was 2011. Costumes. I think. I'm sorry. Yeah.
It was close enough. But yeah, it's about Forza specifically. Like here's a guy who just wants to become best friends with everybody in his school. All right, I'm down. I'm there.
Very Gurren Lagann.
Yeah, and he dresses up like a superhero. He dresses up like a superhero and he kicks monsters for fun. Like this is great. Like he kicks monsters so they explode. This is the kind of thing that I want to see. And like it's kind of amazing when it comes to like this. I don't know if this applies. I know this applies to like Sentai, which is where like they get the Power Ranger stuff from, and then Rider, because those I think those are probably their biggest toy sellers, right?
Yes. Rider's a huge toy seller. Sentai, unfortunately, not so much.
But like, and I don't know how it is for some of the other shows that exist in this genre. But from what I understand, before they start a new season, basically they'll come out with a design for a toy. Like it's all about selling toys. Japan might have this capitalism thing figured out better than America might ever, because they design these toys, then they tell their writers, okay, make a TV show based on these toys. Now, if that had been done in America, it'd be the most hockey, kiddie thing, lowest common denominator kind of show you can ever imagine. But in Japan, you give a writer a cool design and you tell him, make a show out of this, he'll be like, okay, this is going to be a story about the meaning of being human in an age of technology and how we will eventually fight God.
Yes, absolutely agreed. And that's what I like about it, because the thing is, at least with the shows, I guess the best way to say it is that, yes, you're right. It is meant to sell toys. It is meant to sell expensive clothing and jewelry, which I may or may not own. It's meant to sell out stadiums before Corona. It was meant to sell out sold out shows and concerts. It's meant to sell out tickets. But there is effort put into it. I don't feel like the thing that I like about Tokusatsu as a whole, regardless of whether or not you're watching an episode of the original Rider in 1975 or watching Forze, like you mentioned, in 2012, or you're watching 01, which you were alluding to just now. Like, the thing that I like about these shows is that I don't feel like it talks down to its audience. I don't feel like, if you watch an episode of Power Rangers, for example, especially like a modern day episode of Power Rangers, it kind of really does feel like it's not just talking to kids, but it's also talking down to kids. I think a lot of what makes a good show, regardless if it's something like Breaking Bad, or if it's something like Stranger Things, or if it's something like a cartoon, I think that one of the most important things as a writer, as a creative, which Christian, you and I are, is to know and respect your audience.
And I feel, but not even just that. Like, I feel like the writers who do these Tokusatsu shows, they have philosophies. They have these thoughts that they just want to get out into the world. And if they have to do so by selling, by selling a grasshopper themed superhero, like, they're fine with that.
Yeah. No, just, totally. Totally.
Like they all these stories are always about being human, or being a hero, or having or the strength of one's willpower, especially
and internal struggles and all that. You did touch upon something interesting. It wasn't up until a few years ago where there used to be a split between the production companies and Bandai, who is the one who makes all the toys and all the accessories and all the props. The more that Rider began selling, and I guess Sentai as well, the more power essentially Bandai got over the writers.
Yeah, that's a systemic issue that's almost breathes through all of like creative outlets. It happens here in America too, where the more money something makes, the more producers want to put their 2 cents in.
And some writers rebel against it, like Kiva's writer, Kamen Rider Kiva, which is the vampire themed one, came out in 2008. The writer Toshiki Inoue, Inoue, I believe it's off the top of my head. He's famous for rebelling against Bandai and like what the producers want. He'll be like, "Oh, we're gonna ship this episode's gonna introduce a new toy. Cool, I'll introduce it, but we'll never see it again." One of my we're gonna introduce a power up. Cool. I'm going to do so in the most ridiculous way possible. One of my favorite ones is Fize from this GIF that keeps getting shared. Like, Fize came out in what, 2000? Jeez, Fize is 2000. Fize is 17 years old, and Fize was the 4th. So Fize is the theme. The numbering theme is 5, but it was the 4th rider in 2003. But one of my favorite parts about that is that the GIF shows the superhero kneel down on the floor, and his power up, I think it's the Axel watch or something, just thrown at his face. That's how he gets the power up. It's not meant to be the ceremonious thing where it's like, oh, you've earned it through willpower. It's like, nope, here it is. Just throw it.
And to me that's a beautiful thing. Like, I love just kind of like anytime a creative wants to just say give like a fuck you to the man. I will appreciate that every chance I get, and that makes me super interested in watching Fives. Now I'm working my way through the eras, so I'm still finishing up with Double at this moment. But like I said, I'm in the middle of Kuga, which was the first part of Heisei, because like all these shows are always divided up. It's based off
Rider is split up mostly. Because Sentai has been going on since 75 with if I'm not mistaken, twice where it stopped production. It stopped production after JAKQ, Jaka, it's pronounced, which was the second one, which was in 77. And then it stopped production. There was no Sentai in 1978. And then Battle Fever J started in 1975. And it kept going year after year up until Kira Major this year, where they stopped production because of COVID-19.
Oh, and it should be said, like, these shows are putting out anywhere between 45 to 60 episodes in a year.
Yes, 45 to 50. It's very rare that you get one that's past 60. I think the original Rider is 98 episodes.
And that's because they didn't really know what they were doing.
Yeah.
They didn't know if this was going to be the show forever or if they were going to switch it out every year.
Go Ranger, which was the first Sentai, got up until like the 70s in terms of its episodes. But ever since then, the average has been 45 to 50 episodes. There have been some exceptions. Like I know Changeman, which is the 1985 Sentai, was 55 episodes, which was a big deal at the time because normally the shows were like between 48 and 50. JKQ, which we just talked about, was cut short because kids didn't like it and they tried retooling it and that also didn't work. And Kamen Rider Amazon, I believe, was the big one because that was 26 episodes. So there was a point in the very early 70s where Kamen Rider X had 35 episodes and Amazon had 26. So together it was a year plus. But other than that, it's like you said, it's generally between like 45 to 50 episodes.
So basically, for the better part of half a century, they've been putting out a new episode every single week, besides like some extenuating circumstances.
Yes, which is super impressive when you think about it, because this also goes back to when you were saying earlier about how their work ethic. From what I understand, and I'm not sure when this started, but I have heard reports where the shows are planned out well in advance. Like if a show,
I can't imagine them being done any other way.
Yeah, you're right, because so let's talk about Saber or 01, which you were recently talking about. The currently airing Rider right now is Saber. According to what I have, according to like news reports and like behind the scenes, usually a Rider and a Sentai start production the moment that the first episode finish of the previous season and ends up airing. So right now we're watching Saber, which is dating this to like September 2020. That means that Saber's been in development or at least planned since September 2019. And that gives it enough time for them to like prep out the suits, the characters, the storyline. And it gives them enough time where like if something doesn't work, they could change it. Or in some cases where like a character gets popular, they can rewrite the story to have the character there.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. Like the like even when it comes to like, I think Power Rangers is even now as cheap as it is to make, and they know that like 50% of a Power Rangers episode comes from another show, and still like they're down to like 26 episodes a year. And I don't know if it's like a comment on like American attention spans, whereas because like you were talking about Amazon's only having 26 episodes, and that's like the only show that's available to stream like on Amazon Prime right now. You can watch it.
Yes. In addition to that, I was referring to the original Amazon, which came out in 1974. No, 4. I think it was 4. But interestingly enough, you mentioned that, yes, Amazon's, or as it's called in America, Amazon Riders, which I think is actually pretty cool. I like that name. I think it's a nice little homage to the original one, because they called the original 1974 Amazon Rider. Like they called him that in the show. They called him that in the crossovers. It's in the theme song as well. So it's a nice little callback. But yes, season 1 and season 2 total to, I believe, 26 episodes, like you said. And what's cool about that is that every episode has a letter of the alphabet in it. So Amazon season 1 starts with A and it ends with M, and then season 2 goes from N to Z.
Yeah, that's another thing that I noticed. Like they'll just put like these little tidbits and little Easter eggs into a bunch of their shows all the time, where like Double would have double would always have a double entendre. Their title, since like 2 was the theme of the show, like every episode had the whole season was 2-parters. Every episode had 2 names. There was always a letter that related to 2 different things in every single episode.
The suit itself has a bunch of W's, from head to toe,
And so like the way they can stay on theme. I'm sure like Saber is going to be doing a lot of stuff with that. Like we'll see later on. Zero One's catchphrase, like I'm the one that's going to end this, or there's only one person that can defeat you, and that's me. Mm-hmm. The writing is really super top notch on these shows, and one of the things I'm really appreciative of the most, like you were talking about like Go Ranger and all that kind of stuff like that, like there's still homages to the history of these shows. Like it took like 10 years for Power Rangers to have an appreciation, to show appreciation for its legacy, because I think you could say that like, Power Rangers may be like a lesser show, but it still meant a lot of things to a lot of people.
Oh yeah, that's why personally I'll never judge anyone that likes these shows, because I think that the way that I see Power Rangers and like Sentai and Rider in particular is that we may not all have the same reasons for liking the same shows, but we have a reason to do so, and I think that's what's important. Like I'll never judge. For example, if there's a show that someone likes and I don't, I'm not gonna be like, why do you like that show? It's the worst. I'd be more interested to be like, why do you like the show, and was there something going on in your life that made you really like it? So the same thing, because Power Rangers meant a lot of things to everyone. Like I haven't seen a full-on episode in Power Rangers in a long time, but I still know it exists. And every time I see like news about it, I get interested. I'm like, oh, they adapted this one, or oh, they're not adapting this one. That's strange. When a new season comes out, I listen to the theme song and it's like, oh, okay, this is cool. I like it. Or, oh, okay, it's a remix of the original one again. So, that's what that's what they do. And I'm sure there has to, another reason why this is still going is because, there are kids that like them. It's kind of a strange non sequitur to go on, but one of my favorite events, one incident or event I recall in the before time was going to a bar or an event. I can't recall it right now, but they had temporary tattoos, and this is like a nighttime bar event. And I saw Dino Charge from Power Rangers, and I was like, okay, cool. Like it's cool to see like that stuff. It's still out there. It's still out there. I will
say the theme song for Dino Charge slaps.
It is. I do like. Yes. I will agree with you on that.
That one's really good. And that whole season is actually really good overall.
It's decent. I think yes, you're right. It is decent.
And like Ninja Steel, I didn't like as much, but then they had like. But their Dimensions in Danger episode, where they brought back a bunch of the old, like a bunch of the previous actors from previous shows, was a lot of fun, and I highly recommend it for anybody who's a Power Rangers fan if you haven't seen it.
Especially if you're a Tommy fan, because, and again, this is where our opinions might differ. I loved Dimensions in Danger. I thought it was great, but one thing that Power Rangers doesn't really do, and admittedly Sentai and Rider are also guilty of this as well. You were touching upon a point about how like some of the earlier shows weren't well written. The main issue that I think a lot of seasons have when it comes to their returning actors or characters is that they don't give us an update on like what these characters are doing now or what they've been doing since. Like with Tommy, for example, we found out in Dimensions in Danger, like he has a kid. It's implied to be Kat with like a split-second thing near the end where
they hold hands.
They hold hands through that, but it's never mentioned. Kat doesn't show any concern about her son being kidnapped, which is very out of character for I think most people, and especially if those people are parents. Like, and it also like it made me wonder too when I saw like Rocky, for example, who was in one of the original. Well, I mean, he's not the original Red Ranger, but he's one of the original Power Rangers.
He's number 2.
Yes. TJ, who we saw in Super Mega Force. Gia, who is from Super Mega Force. We don't know what happened to her because the last we saw of the Super Mega Force team was that they put one of the. I know that it's called a Gokai saber in Gokaiger. I don't know what the American adaptation for the name for the sword is. They just put the sword in the sand, and we don't know anything about the team again. TJ from In Space, we don't know. I already mentioned him. Trent from Dino Thunder, who was in high school. Like, what's he doing now? Is he still an artist?
Yeah, it's a symptom of them. The American shows not wanting to put as much work in as I think even their fans are even asking for, because like we know that it like the dimensions, we've had the Tokusatsu Dimensions and Danger equivalent like season crossover where a bunch of teams from different Sentais will come together, but Japan will make that an entire movie and they'll release it in theaters.
Right. Still in that case though, and again, this is true, Japan also kind of doesn't want to go into it either. I've noticed. One example that was recent was Heisei Generations Forever, which I believe is available through Shout. And they had a special like live stream of it one night, which I will always find interesting because they decided to air the stream, like the live stream, like the premiere, just as new episodes of 01 and Kira Major were going on. And I was like, wait a minute, isn't that a conflict of interest? Like, wouldn't the people that would want to watch this want to watch the new episodes as it went on? I mean, I saw both to try and support it. But one of the things I do remember is that the returning character for Deno, the actor, I believe, or someone in the production crew said, I think it might have been the actor himself. He said he didn't want to bring his character back or act as his character. Instead, he was possessed by one of the Imagines because it's been 10 years and he knows that, and he doesn't want to like ruin any illusions of what his character might be like 10 years later, which again, it's an interesting thing to think about because this is coming from the actor. Gokaiger was kind of in the same boat. Like some of, it was established what some of the characters were doing. Others were not. Yeah, because
Gokaiger was an anniversary season, like 35th anniversary. Like it was a team that can use the powers of all the previous teams. Gokaiger was like the first Sentai besides Zyuranger that I had seen in its entirety. I really enjoyed it. I really did feel like there was appreciation for previous actors who had played their parts, because like there was a lot of cameos. They were reduced to cameos pretty much, right? It wasn't until like the final battle, which we got a glimpse of in like the Megaforce show, where all the Rangers come together to fight against the enemy.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about Gokaiger is that they depowered all the previous heroes, which
and then
can go either way. Which can go any way,
there was
depending.
One team that was using their powers.
Yeah, and you would have some cases where previous characters would be returning, and also get to like borrow their powers again for a bit. But
the movie where they crossed over with Go Sager.
Yes, the 199. I believe it was called 199 Heroes.
I love describing it because there's a part of that movie where the angel-themed superheroes fight against the pirate-themed superheroes, and they pull out a giant cannon that shoots out a bunch of different colors, and then they fight a bunch of kaiju together, and are almost defeated if not for being cheered on by the cries of children.
Yes, and then the toys that they have would be the toys that they had would turn into like the mechas.
Yeah, like that's my favorite thing.
That was
ever.
super cool.
That is the best. If you want to know how to get Christian, if you want to know how to really, really get me to watch your thing, just have a bunch of ridiculous action nonsense and have it be saved by the hopes of the small children. You will get me every single time.
Tokusatsu is essentially that. It is ridiculous nonsense. And depending on your sense of humor, it's either the coolest thing you've ever seen, or you're just gonna be like, what the hell is this? And I think you and I both lean on the more of like, this is the coolest thing we've ever seen, because
this is amazing. It's all pure like id unleashed.
Yes, and again, if you're into that stuff, it really does make, if you can, like, I don't want to say turn off your brain, because we've mentioned earlier that especially now with the recent modern day like writing, it respects its audience. But yeah, it's every show can be described in a way that's like, what? But it has to be seen to be believed.
Oh yeah, like those are my favorite things. Like anytime you can describe something in a way, whether it's a movie, a video game, show, whatever medium you're absorbing, and trying to describe it for what it is on the surface makes you sound like a crazy person.
For sure.
You've already attracted to me whatever it is already.
Yeah.
And but then to take that and to also bring in so much heart and earnestness, which I think earnestness is like the word of the day for this particular genre, right? Because all these shows, if anything, are earnest. Everyone is trying really hard to do what they do.
Oh, of course.
At least most of the time.
Yeah. You'll have a few cases where there's like behind the scenes issues, but for the most part, everyone is excited to be a part of this. And because, like you said, this is a legacy thing, especially now, especially in like the last 10 years, you have a lot of actors that grew up on Rider and that grew up on Sentai that are excited to just, like, for example, Dime, which was Dime was it? No, it was 7 years ago. 7 years ago, man. I remember watching it when it aired, and I think the only reason I remember that is because there was a commercial during Last Night's Saber that advertised Dime, and it had like this big 7. I'm like, oh man, it has been 7 years. But anyway, the main character, the main actor, even though he didn't say it at a press conference, there was a picture of him being very young, with a picture of a stage show CUDA. So it was like, ever since I don't know how old he has to be younger, but just the thought of like this little kid that went to like a superhero like stage show, got to shake hands with a guy dressed up as CUDA, and then actually becomes a writer like 10 plus years later it's cool, man. It's, gotta like that stuff.
And I think that's the thing that we're seeing now with Power Rangers. Now that Power Rangers is in its 20s. It's like 23rd, 24th year of Power Rangers. But again, like, as someone who's also rewatching a bunch of Power Rangers stuff, like the show for the first 10 years does not reference itself. Every once in a while there's a crossover with the previous season, but it wasn't until, I guess, the heyday of Power Rangers, which was probably where the least amount of people were watching it, around like the mid 2000s, is when they started going into that like once a Ranger, always a Ranger kind of thing.
Yeah. So to add to that, part of the reason why I think they weren't referencing it so much is because they were trying to separate, because Power Rangers, at least in the beginning, is very unique, where it was connected. It was all one long show. The same continuity. The Zordon era, let's call it, because that had to do with Zordon, which was like their magical genie granting like power source.
Big head in a tube, where you had the 5 original Rangers, but then 3 of them had to leave. Then 3 of them got replaced. Then they got replaced. Then it went to Zeo, and then you got a few, like, Tommy technically was the only original one, even though he's not part of the original 5. He was a 6th Ranger, then Turbo. Then they switched the new cast to Turbo. Then they switched to Twin Space. You're right.
And then
it was
up until Lost Galaxy, which was like, so the Zordon era was from the original one to In Space, and then you have Lost Galaxy, which is a sequel to In Space, and then starting from Lightspeed Rescue, which was 99, then it started becoming its own thing. So like, you were right when you said right there in the middle, like the ones where not a lot of people were watching, even though ironically enough, I think it was one of the highest rated. Like Lost Galaxy got a lot. It was very popular. So it was Lost Galaxy.
I'm in the middle of Lightspeed Rescue right now, and I'm so excited to get to Time Force. I am shaking, just like excited for the good drama niceness that is Power Rangers Time Force. I'm really excited for that one.
Agreed. One of the things that Time Force is an interesting one, because it borrows a lot from Time Ranger, which is also really good, but it also doesn't. So a lot of the scripts are the same, or like the part of the main storyline is the same, but they're both very different experiences. And it's also really good.
Some of the best seasons are the ones where they just take entire like plots from the Sentai.
Yes. I'm kind of in the middle between that. I like when they reference the Sentai, but I also like when they do their own thing. Like, I think of In Space, for example. It's nothing like Mega Ranger, which is the Sentai it came from, but they're still both really good in its own right. And I think a lot of what makes In Space good is Ironically enough, we just mentioned it because it's a result of all these years of continuity.
Yeah, so that does give them some leeway, I think, when it comes to like them being self-referential, because for those first like 8 years, the show was just one long it was just one long continuity where everything was happening as an effect from the cause right before it. But even then, like, for a lot of those seasons, you watch Power Rangers and it'd be like, hey, what is this? You're Power Rangers. What's a Power Ranger?
Oh man, that was weird. I think Ninja Storm did that. Where it was like, wait a minute, Power Rangers aren't real. And that was a little controversy within the fan base, because people at the time were like, wait a minute, does that mean the previous Power Rangers didn't exist? And it wasn't until the season afterwards, Dino Thunder, that brought back Tommy. Like, I think there was a line where they reference Power Rangers being real again. And I think that had to have been because of the response of like, wait a minute, because they thought Ninja Storm was like in a different continuity, which fittingly enough, they did later on. They did that. Dino Charge isn't in it.
Now with the Boom Studios comic book, they had a big Shattered Grid event where it was a big crossover. And basically there's a multiverse of Power Rangers that exists. So like,
that is very cool.
So if something doesn't quite add up between like two different seasons, it's a multiverse.
It's cool that they did that.
Which I think Kamen Rider does that too. I mean, it wasn't
Kamen Rider is entirely multi, like, so I know you want to talk about Decade, which we can absolutely get into. So so the thing with Rider, before going to that, Sentai as a whole isn't connected unless Toei / the writers, unless Toei / the writers says it is. Every season is a standalone season, with I think the exception of Gotaiger, which we mentioned, and Denjiman and Sun Vulcan. Denjiman being 1980 and Sun Vulcan being 1981, both of which I really, really recommend. There's a reason why those two in particular are still popular after all these years. Like last year or the year before, they released a set of the Denji rings, the transformation devices, and for the first time in like 38 years. So just to show like how popular it is, that it was still like last after all this time, because like obviously Denjiman's demographic would be people in their 40s at the least. And I am not being ageist. I am being factual. I have nothing wrong with any 40 or 50-year-olds that grew up with Denjiman and ordered the rings. Like, more power to you. Seriously. And Gotaiger, which we mentioned, like Gotaiger being an entire like connection. Gotaiger takes place in the same world. And I think there are some shows that connect with other ones in a sense. Like, for example, Tier Major, which is airing right now. There was not the episode that just aired this week, but the one that just aired last weekend is directly references Geki Ranger, which is the Sentai that came out in 2007 and came out in America's Jungle Fury. So there are very rare cases where, for the most part, they're not in the same universe, but in some cases, they very much like heavily imply. It doesn't suffer from this, but it's still a symptom of the same thing we see in comic books like DC, Marvel movies, Marvel comic books, and all that kind of stuff, where it's like, why is there ever a problem when there's literally hundreds of superheroes walking around? Yeah, that can take care of it. Yeah, no, agreed. And again, to go on your subject, Rider is interesting because what Power Rangers did with its first few seasons until in space, Kamen Rider was doing the same thing. In its very, very early stages in the 70s, the shows were connected. Kamen Rider, the first one that came out in 71 was V3 was a sequel to it in 73. X was a sequel to V3. Amazon was a sequel, although they didn't acknowledge it. Like, I believe Amazon was the one that didn't have previous writers come back. Kamen Rider Stronger.
You can even see it in the costuming. Like, those first few Kamen Riders are all basically the same thing, just with like slight differences. Kamen
Rider Stronger, which was 1975, was supposed to be the final Kamen Rider, which is crazy to think about since next year's the 50th anniversary. That was supposed to be the final one, and it brings back all the main 7 riders beforehand. And then Sky Rider came out in 79, and at first, its first half was trying to break away from that. And it was trying to break away from that, but then they included a bunch of previous riders, and then Black RX, which came out in 88. brought back the riders in suits. So in a way, the first half, which is commonly referred to as the Showa era, because that was the emperor at the time.
That
was the emperor at the
Kamen
time.
Rider is divided up by whatever emperor is
in power at the time, or like the name of the era, as you say. Heisei, as you mentioned, for the most part, especially the first 10 years, every world was separate. Kudo was separate from Adito, et cetera, until Decade, which basically had the story of. And since you mentioned it, you should specify it.
Well, actually, like I was thinking of what was the one before Zero ZO. Because I haven't seen Decade. I've only seen the movie crossover.
You haven't seen Decade?
I have not seen Decade.
Well, you did a good thing. I think you did a good thing for that at the moment, because I think Decade is a lot better once you see the previous shows that came before, because you can get sort of a better respect. Decade in many ways was like the first Rider show that I saw as it aired, which my previous experience with that was Deno and Kiva. So yeah, Decade is an anomaly in itself, not just in universe, because it's one of those shows where people will say it's not good and there's a lot of flaws, but it still has its moments. And I think a lot of it has to do with the main character.
Imagine that there's some dependence on previous seasons, right? Because it's one of those anniversary seasons where we're calling back to a lot of stuff that's happened on
Yes and no.
shows.
Yes and no, because this is a multiverse, and because they wanna, I believe the goal was to respect what came before it. They didn't use the main. It was every episode or every set of episodes was a two-parter referencing a previous Rider season, but it was not a continuation. So the first two episodes, for example, had to do with Kuda, but it didn't star the main Kuda actor. It didn't star anyone from the season, but it did heavily reference upon it. So it was the same Rider with a different story. That being said, I believe there are 3 of them directly that either brought back original actors or outright spoil the shows. Fies is one of them. I'm not going to go into specifics. Fies is one of them. Deno is one of them because, well, Deno is a time traveling Rider. So the entire multiverse theory, basically, like, it made sense that whatever Decade's doing in the show, or at least whatever the story's telling Decade to do, like, it's not going to affect Deno because they're unaffected by time. That's the thing with Deno. And I think the other one was Hibiki. Hibiki brought back a lot of returning actors, except the main one.
Yeah, I think it goes to show that, like, getting into these series is it's not difficult, but there's so much to it. And I think, like, if you're the kind of person who really is into continuity or loves it when continuity is turned over on its head, I think Kamen Rider is kind of the thing for you, or any of these, like, really wide spanning Sentais. It's a lot of fun. Like, just from this conversation alone, I am really enjoying, like, the history lesson that is happening.
Likewise.
You're also someone who you've got several of the drivers, you've got several of the belts at home for the
I've more than I'm willing to admit. Way more than I'm willing to admit. So good thing that this is a podcast and not like like an MTV Cribs version style of this. Because let's just say that at least. So from what I can see, just looking to my left, oh boy, I've got a lot seed, an orange lot seed from Gaim, which came out, which we talked about. Etsaid, I think we briefly talked about Etsaid, and I'm looking at the drivers for Etsaid and Build, which were 2017 and 18 respectively. Hazard driver, I see a couple of boxes of premium Bandai accessories. I think one's from Drive. No, those are both from Drive. And I have a bunch of boxes from Amazon.co.jp. And the reason I laugh is because I found out, and it's one of those things where you look back and it's like, I wish I didn't know. I remember there was I think there might have been a post on Twitter that's like, guys, did you know you can order stuff from Amazon Japan and you don't need a middleman? And as it turns out, you can. And I was like, oh God, my wallet, it just hurts. It hurts so much. It hurts so much. And, but I will say this, one thing that I am sort of, I don't think proud of is the word I'd use, but I am more than willing to admit it on a podcast. I have a ton of Kamen Rider face masks that I ordered from Redbubble, because there's this artist on Twitter that was making them, and I think they're great. I think they make, going out a lot better, and without getting too real world-ish, it's kind of cool. It's like, the way I see it is like, okay, so if I have to wear a mask, which is important, and I 1,000% recommend it anywhere you go, because, this thing going on is not a joke, and, it's been going on for a while. Like, my mentality is, if I have to go through with this, at least let me enjoy it.
Dude, as someone who has a Kamen Rider double and a blue Gokai mask sitting on my dresser right now. And
did you get them from the same person that I did?
I'm not sure. If the Kamen Rider one, I can't remember. It was like a mix of different folks. The Kamen Rider one, I think so. I'm not so sure about the Gokai, the blue Gokai.
No, because I think the same person that I got the Rider face mask for, I think also did Gokai Blue. I'm pretty sure, and I'm looking it up right now. I'm pretty sure.
Then maybe so. And thanks to a shipping error, I actually have two of each.
Nice. Yeah. No, the first one I'm looking at is Gokai Blue. Yeah. I think I think we might be talking about the same person that made him.
I mean, I didn't see one for Gokai Red. I would have liked that one just because his name is Captain Marvelous.
I think you just have to ask, and I'm pretty sure. We're talking about like me being the fan that I am. I think a part of the reason why this person made a lot of these Rider masks that are available is because I've probably asked for half of them. I am not kidding. I am not kidding. I wish I could say I'm kidding. Like, I'm on the site right now and I see that there's like 93 results. I'm guaranteed I've probably asked for more than half of them. Again, this is not a joke. This is not something I'd make up.
I'm the only thing I'm disappointed about is that for some reason there doesn't seem to be as much of a market for these kind of things.
No, there doesn't. No, it's a shame. It's so interesting you mentioned that, because it's been this year specifically, and it's a shame that the pandemic kind of screwed it over. Is that this is the year where we're finally getting more Rider releases in America. Case in point, Team Kamen Rider, which is the official Twitter account, they're the reason why I got a complete selection, which translated means screen accurate, very expensive, Kamen Rider Tiva belts. Like, that's one of my favorite things to get. And the main reason I got it is because I could go to it. I mean, not as much now with everything that's going on, but as long as you have a face mask, of course. Like, we now, thankfully, at least in the US, like, we live in a world where we could pre-order it at GameStop, go to GameStop and get a complete selection belt, which again is pretty pricey, but without having to pay the shipping fees. So, and I say that because I've bought a few things from Team Kamen Rider. I have a few of the shirts. My phone socket is from Zeo, which you mentioned earlier. Zeo, the Kamen Rider, not Zeo, the Power Ranger show. But yeah, no, it's so and the only reason I say that is because I remember in the comments in one of the Twitter feeds threads is that someone mentioned like, hey, so are we getting face masks? Like, I feel like that's such a big opportunity that neither Sentai or Rider has done, even in Japan. Like, they would make a killing here if it was official. They absolutely would.
And that's a thing that's been true for like Japan across different mediums. Like, I think Nintendo is still pretty terrible at assessing the market when it comes to like how much their stuff is worth and how much people might actually want it.
Oh man, Nintendo's an entirely other podcast. I could go into that one for a long time.
Yeah. And even just to start out, like, there's a whole bunch of grief they gave people because they were selling the Super Mario All-Stars to like a limited quantity physically, and even like the digital versions is even
it's an expired March, and the same thing with Super Mario Brothers 35. Like, Nintendo's big problem, especially, and again, we could go into this forever, but I know what you're talking about. Like Nintendo's big problem, especially this was something that went on in the GameCube era to like now, but not so much during the Switch era, is the artificial scarcity.
Yeah.
It was in the Wii U days impossible to find something. And with the amiibos as well. And I think the amiibo thing is still going on. Like, God help you if you didn't pre-order or go to a store the day that an amiibo comes out, because guaranteed if you go in the next day, you're not going to find it.
Yeah. It must be like, I'm sure it's like some kind of cultural thing in Japan where the artificial scarcity is a part of the enjoyment of a certain product. I don't know what it could be. Neither one of us is Japanese, but I'm sure there's something to that. And I am looking at Amazon.co.jp, and I can get a 01 driver for 4,000 yen. That's not bad at all.
That is not bad at all. That is. Did you know, Christian? Did you know about that? Honestly,
I did not know about that.
Well,
I just looked it up right now as you were talking about it.
I feel like a drug dealer that has like
you, sir. I have opened up a can of worms.
I am equal parts apologetic, but also you're welcome. Because that was a gateway drug. Once I found out. I'm actually pretty happy that I'm not into the Saber stuff right now, because like I mentioned, there's a lot of Amazon.co.jp boxes in my place.
The Saber driver is a little bit too long for my liking.
What do you mean long?
Like it's wide. The way it looks in the body, it takes up the entire waist. I like my smaller drivers. I like my Jew Ranger buckler, and like even the 01 driver didn't even seem like too long to me.
I agree with you on the 01 driver. I liked it very much, not just because of the way it looks, but it doesn't feel like, of all the drivers that I've worn. Yeah, that's right. Worn like more than a handful. The Etsade one is like the biggest one, like the bulkiest of them all. That's interesting. You mentioned that regarding the Saber driver. The only reason I don't like it is because it's and of course it's meant. I know the reason why it's meant for kids, but
it looks like a toy.
Well, that too, but it's just like, if they were somehow able to engineer, and of course we're talking about something that would probably cost as much as like a complete selection modification belt, which is like $400 or so on that average. And that's not including shipping. That's part of the reason why my first one was a TVAT belt, because it was made available to sell here. Because they cost somewhere between $300 and $500 without the shipping. So I'm like, $700 for a driver? No, I love riders as much as the next guy, but that's way too much. No, it's the sword. It's the size of the sword. If they were to find a way to like engineer it, so like, you pull the sword out and it's like a close like prop size, I'd go for it. Like
one of those like telescopic like lightsaber blades.
Yes. And I think they could, and it wouldn't surprise me if like after Saber's over, they do that. They make a sword that could fit into the current driver, and then once you pull it out, it does the whole telescope thing to make it the size that it is. I would probably consider one.
Do you think the new stunt actor? That's another thing. We didn't really get into it. Actually, let's get into it because I think we have some time for that. The stunt performances when it comes to these shows.
Okay.
Is amazing. Like I don't
agreed.
Like, I'm like there's of course a really cool stunt culture when it comes to America, and like stunt performers are a type of actor and performer that aren't really appreciated enough. Like they deserve their own category for Oscars. They deserve all this kind of thing. But like it's really cool. I just really cool. Like there's this really mainstay in Japanese TV where it's like, oh yeah, you want to be a stunt actor, you'll probably end up on a Kamen Rider eventually.
Yeah. Oh no,
or a Sentai or something.
The stunt work is part of the reason why it's so much fun to watch these shows even after all these times, because anyone that's listening to this has to consider the following. It's one thing to do a stunt like jumping out of a car or like hand-to-hand combat, but in those suits, the range of vision is so small. It's very difficult to see out of those helmets. You're essentially fighting blind. So when you take a look at a fight scene that has to do with a lot of choreography and a whole lot of movements, you have to realize they're fighting blind, and they do it so well.
Yeah, these guys are wearing, like, if anybody looks up a picture of any Kamen Rider, they're all wearing motorcycle helmets that have colored lenses over the front of it, and like you can't see it. They're basically just wearing bags over their heads.
They're solid lenses too. You can't see through them. You can only see through the little holes that are in some of them. Decade has them. Decade has them. And it goes right back to the original one, because if you look at the original helmet, you can see that they're looking through the black. Yeah,
there's black 2 little holes, slits underneath the eyes.
Under the eyes, so they're not looking like directly out of the eyes.
But yeah, your field of vision just becomes like a couple centimeters. Oh man, it's pretty shocking. And if you do go back and watch those old shows where they had less CGI to really depend on, like, it gets really cool seeing some of the actors happen in there, because like there are some moments, like watching through Kugo's, you could tell that the guy's having real trouble like getting around on that suit right now. But then there are other moments where, like, how the hell does he do that? I feel like I'm watching like old Douglas Fairbanks, like 1931 stunts where, like, oh yeah, that guy almost died, but that was really cool what he did right there.
Rider in particular, especially the classic ones, Christian, you mentioned that, like, you would most likely enjoy the original Rider shows from, like, the current one.
Ichigo did get hurt, didn't he?
Yes, yes.
The very first actor that ever played a Rider, he broke both his legs doing a stunt.
Yes, and then he had to come back. And then there's another scene where he is on top of a cable car, a moving cable car in the sky, and he doesn't have a harness. Kamen Rider V3's stunt actor, this not the main character, the stunt actor, had to climb this huge smokestack. He didn't have a harness or anything back then. Kamen Rider Amazon, there's also a scene in his show where he is moving. He's holding on to the rails underneath a roller coaster as a cart moves directly on top of him. He didn't have a harness. And I remember this because he mentioned how, because he was in a variety show, and I think they asked him, like, would you ever come back to do an episode of Kamen Rider? He's like, yeah, but I'm not doing any of those stunts. Like, I can come back, but I am not going to do, if it's not stunt intensive, I will come back.
I just want to put me in the suit and I'll stand there for a while.
Exactly. It's crazy to see. And that's part of the charm of the old shows, is that, yes, like you said, the special effects may be outdated. The writing was, the writing isn't all there, but at least in terms of the stunts, like, there's a lot of stuff that went on in those early 70s and mid 80s shows that you simply could not get away with. Like, you wouldn't see a scene where 01's character, for example, is on top of a moving cable car or something like that. You just don't see that anymore. And Metal Heroes was a lot of fun. Metal Heroes love doing their stunts.
Yeah, if anybody's a film buff listening to this, like, do not sleep on old, like, movies, TV shows, and all that kind of stuff, where it's like everything you see on camera is what you get. Like, it's not, you cannot fake some of the stuff that you get to see.
They're classics I like to consider them like classics. I don't consider them like old, because, for some reason we have this very, like, weird stigma where it's like, if something's old, it means it's therefore of, like, no value and unwatchable. And I don't think that applies to Rider, and I also don't think that applies to a lot of things regarding film as well. There's a reason why, like, for example, Casablanca is still timeless. Gone with the Wind, a lot of those classic films. The Thing, I think it is one that I'm thinking of.
Oh yeah, John Carpenter's The Thing. I'm gonna rewatch that like 10 times just for Halloween.
Because again, the effects might be dated, but that doesn't take away from it being a good film.
Yeah. But the reason I brought up the stunt stuff is, like, this is just kind of like a funny thought that I had regarding the Kamen Rider shows. Do you think? I'm sure this isn't true. I'm just asking this just to be funny.
Sure.
Do you think the guy that became the main writer for the new Reiwa series, you think he's got a little bit of a grump just because he doesn't know how to use a sword as good as as maybe the guy that got for Saber? Because you get hired to be the main stunt actor for the new era of shows, and then when the second series comes out, they get a new stunt actor.
Yeah, I was actually very interested because. To elaborate more on what you're saying, Christian, there is a suit actor, and his name is, and if I think I'm pronouncing this correctly, Seiji Taikawa? Taikawa? No, I think it's Taikawa. And he was the main suit actor for a lot of the Heisei Riders. I think the only ones he was not a part of was Fudo in 2000 and Hibiki in 2005, but he was the main suit actor for all those riders up until Zeo, and then he became the main villain suit actor in 01, and then he was replaced by a new guy for 01, and now we have a new guy for Saber. So yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I thought that they were going to continue the tradition of like, okay, they're going to have this guy who is new to the Reiwa era, and we're going to make him do the stunts for a couple of years and then do that. Because what they essentially did was what Sentai does. Sentai also had a main red stunt actor. I think it was like from Battle Fever J, which was 79, to Jetman, which is 1991. And then after that, they switched up whoever was doing the main red. So it's interesting in that regard, because that is a very at least as of 1991, it's a very Sentai thing to do, to have your suit actors in a rotation, whereas Kamen Rider kept its consistency, even to the point where I believe there was also a main suit actor for the first few or there was I don't know. I feel like I did read somewhere that there was a main like stunt actor for like the early riders. I think. It is,
but I bring it up because like I brought up the stunt thing because it also is interesting. Like aside from also just doing the stunts and getting the fight choreography down, like these guys who play the stunt actor they're basically on the show just as much as the face actors, right?
Oh,
because they're there on camera wearing the suits. They're just not out. And it's kind of amazing. Like there's a video online of one of the suit actors like someone's calling out a different rider that he played, and then he changes up the way he carries himself.
The poses. I think you're talking about Seiji Taikawa, yeah.
Yeah, like he's like the way these guys carry themselves is different from year to year, and they're basically doing as much acting as the face actors. They just don't get to show their face when they're doing it, and it's actually pretty amazing seeing how they could change from one to another.
Also, to add, sorry.
Anyway, yeah, I thought it was just an interesting thing regarding like how they've been changing up the suit actors so often for this last couple years.
To add to that, they also say their lines, because if you look really carefully at any of these shows and you see what's supposed to be the main character, but you know it's the stunt actor, they're moving their heads, which means they have to be saying their lines.
Yeah. And even if they're not saying the lines, they're doing a good job pretending they are. So
yeah, but from what I understand, they do say their lines as well, or at least an approximation of it.
And they still have to get across that emotion. They still have to do as good enough a job so that if they are acting against someone who is there showing their face, that person can respond in kind, because it helps a lot when you're acting if your partner in a scene is putting in just as much effort as you are.
Oh yeah, agreed.
So I think that's a good thing to leave off on. Mark, do you have anything else you want to say for your appreciation about like Tokusatsu and this genre? Like, if you were, I'm sure this is going to be one of the hardest episodes for people to really like, get into.
You're no kidding.
Because we hit them with a lot of really awesome, really cool, but just straight up nonsense.
And we also like hit a fraction. This is like basic stuff. To like really get into the stuff, it would probably be like another 3 or 4 like podcast episodes.
Probably. So, but if there is anything you could say to someone to like try to convince them to get into this like genre as a whole, what would that be?
That would be essentially, I think of it as a pick me up. I think of it, it's like Christian, you mentioned this earlier about like how, these characters are people going through struggles and they're going through their own personal journeys. And I think that is very relatable to a lot of people. I think Tokusatsu is, as a whole, like it's silly fun, like you mentioned, Christian. There's also that escapism, which I think is more important than ever, considering that we're still going through a pandemic. And it's just, I think it's just really important to not let your inner child die. I think that we, as society, are expected to, at a certain point in our lives, for some reason, just stop enjoying what we used to like. And I'm not entirely in agreement with that. I think there is such a thing as a healthy balance of doing what you need to do in your life, paying bills, for one example. And I don't think it should have to mean sacrificing something else you like. So I think part of the reason I like it is because I don't want to have my inner child die so easily with everything else that's going on. And it's a very good motivator. I think it's really important to have something that you very much believe in, which in this genre is a lot of people that have their own beliefs and are going through their own struggles and ultimately just want to come out of whatever it is they're going through like alive. Again, Christian, you mentioned it, like a lot of these shows have a message, and I feel like there's a lot of people that can relate to their message. There's a reason why, to end the answer, there's a reason why two of these shows have still been going on for so long, and adults and kids that are now parents, remember the shows. And there's a reason why, even if it's a little niche here in America, there's a lot of reasons why people here like them. So if anyone wants to, look at something silly or technologically impressive, or, wants to listen to the music, because I think the music is one of the best parts of Tokusatsu. Like I would just say, I think there's something there for everyone. But I think most importantly, it just has to do with like not letting your inner child die.
Real Eyes is my current phone ringtone.
Right? The songs that came out like 3 weeks. The songs it's very hard being a Rider fan these days. It very much is, because as much as I want to say back in my day, because that's how long it's been, like I've been watching like Sentai and Rider stuff regularly for like 11 years now. Like back when I started, the way that it worked for Rider was that the show would start in September. You get the theme song in November, so 2 months from there. Then you get the main soundtrack in December. Then you get the second soundtrack during the summer, and then they'd release a complete one with like a few songs. It's not like that anymore, and I wish it was, because basically what you have now
comes all at once.
Yes, basically what you have now in the case of 01 is the show comes out in September. You have the little TV size. You have the size of the songs that are cut for the show. And then the single doesn't come out until January of next year. It used to be December. Now it's January of next year. And with the exception of maybe like the crossover movie soundtrack, which is remixes of the show's music, you got to wait until September. You got to wait 9 months to get all the other songs. And in some cases, they don't even play the songs. So you got to wait a long time. It's very painful. It's very painful to be a Rider fan these days. Very, like in terms of music, it hurts. It hurts. Wasn't always like this.
Well, sorry about that, Mark, but thank you so much for those beautiful sentiments about the show. I'm sure we can probably convince a few people to get into it as well.
Hopefully.
If there is a place on the interwebs that people want to find you, where will those might be? I'm good. Hey guys, I'm okay with words.
Okay, so two things. We talked about this. This may or may not, hopefully, this depends on whether or not another guest may mention it. Christian and I are part of Cutler Bay Community Theater here in Miami, and we are going to be part of a show that will be streaming on Facebook. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. The Color Bay community will be streaming a live reading of
a dramatic reading. Yes, our play festival, the Love and Technology Play Festival. That'll be November 11th through 12th. November 11 and 12, 7 to 9 p.m. each night. Christian and I will both be in that. So that I definitely want to plug because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I enjoyed the rehearsals. And as for me personally, anywhere to hear me talk, I guess, would be I have a Twitch channel. It's twitch.tv/Marksterpants, which is MarksterPants. I stream very irregularly. Sometimes I stream with a group of friends. We play Jackbox games like every 2 weeks. So if you are looking at a game and you see a slot open, you're more than welcome to join. Usually we do those like the next one would be on the 6th, November 6th. And those usually go on from 8:30 to midnight. And then any other time, it's just pretty regular. Right now I'm streaming the Resident Evil 3 remake and Rock Band. And very much unlike this podcast, I don't talk about Tokusatsu at all. At all. I don't think I've ever mentioned it.
But now let's see if people start asking about it. Now we'll see how far my reach goes.
That'd be hilarious.
But Mark, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you on. This was a lot of fun, man. Let's go into the outro.
Likewise, man.
And that's the show, folks. And can I be honest with you? I really enjoyed that one. I really liked how that turned out. I know it might have actually sounded like Japanese for a few people out there, but here's the thing. That's the show. This is kind of what I wanted out of it. It's just people coming together to geek out about their favorite thing. I mean, I can't possibly ask for more. In fact, actually, you know what? That's not true. I will ask for more because you can be on the show. There is an official form on inmydefensepodcast.com that you guys can fill out if you want to try to be on the show. All you have to do is fill out, give me your email address, give me your name, give me what you want to talk about, and why it means so much to you. Why do you want to get a chance to geek out on a specific subject for an hour or an hour and a half? Well, an hour 15 in this case. And there's no limits, guys. You get as specific or as broad as you want to. As long as you can talk about something with passion and enough knowledge where you won't get corrected too much on the internet, I'm happy with it. Like, look at this episode right here. I know some of you are out there and you're ready to attack us for everything that we got wrong or everything that you disagree with. Feel free. You can reach out to me at inmydefensepodcast@gmail.com. I'm also Chris Rivera on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to talk about this episode, discuss things, feel free to leave a comment on iTunes or whatever podcatcher, that you might be using that also includes comments. Give us a 5-star rating. Really going to appreciate that. And then you can complain about us in the comments. But anyways, folks, I think that's the show. I guess I will see you next week with another geek on the In My Defense podcast.